Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you a question that might feel a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
It's about that specific feeling you get. Maybe it happens on a Sunday evening, or maybe it happens during a particularly pointless meeting at work, where you feel the walls of your life like physically pressing in on you.
I know that feeling.
And I'm not talking about just needing a vacation. I'm not talking about, needing a massage or a weekend off. I'm talking about the desperate, almost clawing need to just escape, to vanish.
It's the universal fantasy of the midlife crisis, isn't it? We joke about it all the time. The guy who buys the red convertible or gets the hair plugs moves to a beach town.
Right.
But deep down, it's a response to a feeling of entrapment. It's that sudden, horrifying realization that the structures we've built to keep us safe, the mortgage, the career, the social standing, have actually become a cage.
Exactly. And usually people deal with that feeling by, I don't know, drinking too much or having an affair or taking up marathon running. But today, we are doing a deep dive into a story that asks a different question. What if that desire to run away was so potent, so radioactive, that it triggered a biological change?
Oh.
What if you didn't just run away to a different city, but to a different species entirely?
And that brings us to our source material, The Wild by Whitley Strieber.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to set the ground rules for this one immediately for everyone listening.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
Because when you hear man turns into a wolf, your brain probably goes straight to Hollywood. You're thinking full moon, silver bullets, ripped shirts.
The whole Wolfman aesthetic, Lon Chaney Jr. howling at the moon.
Exactly. You need to put all of that out of your mind. Strieber is not writing a monster movie here, not in that sense. The Wild is, at its heart, a psychological thriller that treats metamorphosis as a medical and visceral reality.
It's so grounded.
It's set in this grimy, hyper-real New York City of the 1980s. And it's about a man named Bob Duke, whose transformation isn't magic. It's never treated like magic. It's portrayed almost like a cancer or a virus, something inevitable, biological, and absolutely terrifying to the people around him.
That's what completely hooked me on this book. It's the collision of worlds. On one side, you have the absolute mundane misery of civilized life. We're talking debts, psychiatrists, awkward dinner parties, failing technology.
All the stuff that drives us crazy.
And on the other side, you have raw, bloody animal instinct. So our mission today is to explore what happens when those two worlds don't just meet, but try to inhabit the very same body.
And we're going to look at how society handles that because, the scariest part of this book isn't the wolf.
No.
It's the experts.
Oh.
It's the doctors and the police and the lawyers who look at the impossible happening right in front of them and just refuse to see it. It's really about the total breakdown of reality.
So let's unpack this. We have to start with the trap. To really understand why Bob Duke becomes a wolf, we first have to understand why he couldn't stand being a man anymore. So who is this guy, Bob Duke?
Bob is the absolute archetype of modern, quiet desperation. He's in his 40s. On paper, he's a computer consultant, but it's a job he absolutely detests. He hates it so much that he refers to his professional persona as Robert Hack.
Robert Hack. Wow. That says it all, doesn't it?
It really does. It's this admission that he feels like a total fraud.
Because that's not who he really is.
Not at all. Because inside, Bob considers himself a poet. That's his true identity. But he's not a successful poet. He's unpublished. He's got drawers full of manuscripts nobody wants to read. So he feels like a brat. That's the word the book uses. Like a child who refused to grow up, yet he's shackled to these intensely adult responsibilities.
Shackles are tight. I mean, the financial pressure Strieber describes is just, it's suffocating.
It's not just money is tight. This isn't a story about budgeting. Bob is drowning. He's bouncing checks left and right. He's facing eviction from his apartment and his office. He has an office in the Empire State Building, which sounds prestigious, but he's about to be thrown out of it.
And he's avoiding phone calls, that constant dread of the phone ringing.
Exactly. He's dodging calls from American Express. He literally feels hunted.
That word hunted is so important, isn't it?
It is the key. Strieber is so deliberate with his language here. Bob is living in a state of chronic high cortisol stress. He's walking through New York City, literally looking over his shoulder for creditors, for the landlord. He is living the life of a prey animal.
He's the rabbit.
He is the rabbit. And when you live as a rabbit for too long and the fear becomes too much, the psyche, and in this book, the body itself looks for a way out. And what's the only way to stop being the prey?
To become the predator.
Exactly. He wants to become the thing that doesn't have to answer the phone. A wolf doesn't care about credit scores.
A wolf doesn't care about landlords or bounce checks.
Not at all.
Now, if Bob were just some bachelor living alone, this might just be a story about a guy losing his mind in a studio apartment. But he's not. He has a family. And the family dynamic is what really grounds the story in, well, in tragedy. Let's talk about his wife, Cindy.
Cindy is his wife of 15 years. And it's so important to note that their marriage isn't the problem. They aren't unhappy with each other. Strieber has this beautiful line he writes that they are infected with secret laughter.
I love that line.
Isn't it great? It perfectly describes a long, intimate marriage, that private language, the inside jokes that nobody else gets. They have a deep connection. But that financial noose is just strangling the intimacy out of their lives.
She's the one holding it all together.
She's the anchor. She's the one fielding the angry calls from the bank, trying to keep a roof over their heads, while Bob is just retreating further and further into his own internal crisis.
And then there's the son, Kevin. He's 12 years old, and this is where the source material gets almost, I don't know, metafictional. It's a detail that feels too perfect to be real. What is Kevin reading?
He is obsessed with Franz Kafka.
Of course he is.
Specifically, the Metamorphosis. He's so into Kafka that the book says he carries a photograph of Kafka in his wallet.
The kid carries a photo of Kafka in his wallet. Not a baseball player, not a rock star. Franz Kafka.
And it creates this just incredible layer of irony. You have the son, Kevin, who is intellectually fascinated by the idea of alienation, of Gregor Samsa waking up as a giant insect. To Kevin, transformation is a literary concept. It's a metaphor for feeling isolated in your family.
It's something you read an essay about in English class.
Exactly. Meanwhile, his dad is sitting across the dinner table, literally, physically, turning into a wolf.
The son is prepared for the metaphor, but he's completely, utterly unprepared for the reality.
That's it right there. Strieber is contrasting the idea of the wild with the fact of the wild.
Yeah.
The idea is romantic, it's literary, it's deep. The fact is smelly, it's dangerous, and it ruins the living room furniture.
So the trap is set. Bob is stressed, he's hunted, he's alienated from his family and from himself. And then we have the inciting incident. It happens in October. The family is at the Central Park Zoo.
A place Bob hates, by the way. He hates seeing animals in cages, which is, some obvious projection on his part, but they're there, and they stop at the wolf enclosure.
And normally zoo animals just ignore you, right? They pace back and forth, they sleep, but this wolf, this one stops.
It stops pacing, and it locks eyes with Bob. And Strieber describes this moment not as a simple glance, but as a kind of psychic intrusion. Bob feels a molten spot form in his brain. He feels the wolf's boredom, he feels its anger, he feels its trapped energy.
It's like a data transfer.
That's a great way to put it. It's like the wolf looks at Bob and sees an open port, sees a vessel. It plants a seed, the book says, a seed of the wild right into his mind.
But the text implies this wasn't completely random, right? It's not just some wolf cursing a random tourist. Bob has a history with this.
He does. It turns out Bob has been obsessed with wolves his whole life, since childhood. We get this flashback to a dream he had as a boy, where he was a wolf and he was running across a roof. And here's the kicker.
Oh, I know.
When he woke up from that dream, as a boy in his bed, he had grass stains on his pajamas.
That gives me chills every time. It suggests that the barrier between his mind and his body, between dream and reality, has always been unusually thin for him.
Exactly. The potential was always there, lying dormant. The stress of his midlife crisis acted as the fertilizer, and the intense gaze of that wolf at the zoo. That was the spark. The seed is planted. But it doesn't bloom in New York.
No, it blooms in Atlanta.
Of course.
On a business trip, in the most mundane, soul-sucking beige environment possible.
Bob has to fly to Atlanta for an Apple computer conference. He's terrified of flying. He's miserable about being away from home. He's worrying sick about money. He checks into the Westin Hotel. This place is the absolute epitome of the civilized trap he hates. Sterile carpets, silent elevators, plastic key cards.
And this is where reality finally completely breaks. He has a dream, or at least he thinks it's a dream.
It's the first full transformation. He's in his hotel room, and then suddenly the sensory input just shifts. And I really want to highlight Strieber's writing here because he focuses so heavily on the senses. It's not just a visual thing, like Bob looks in a mirror and sees a snout.
No, it's more primal than that.
It's that he can suddenly smell the dust in the carpet fibers from across the room.
Yeah.
He can taste the recycled air from the HVAC system. The entire geometry of the room changes because his eyes are now only 2 feet off the ground, not 5 or 6.
And he doesn't just, curl up on the hotel bed. He goes wild.
It's pure, unadulterated chaos. This isn't some cool power fantasy where he's in control. It's a panic attack in animal form. He runs out of the room. He terrifies a maid who's pushing a cart in the hallway. He crashes through a huge plate glass door in the hotel restaurant.
So he's running naked, or I guess fur naked, through this high-end corporate hotel, being chased by security guards driven by this pure, confused, terrified instinct.
And somehow he makes it back to the elevator, back to his room. The sun comes up, and he wakes up as Bob. Human Bob.
And like any of us would, he immediately rationalizes it. Wow, that was a vivid nightmare. I must be really, really stressed out.
Right. I need to cut back on caffeine. He gets up, he puts on his suit, he goes down to the conference breakfast.
And this is where the real horror sets in, because he runs into a colleague, a man named Winston Gill.
And Winston looks like he's been through a war. He's pale, he's shaking. He tells Bob this insane story about how he was arrested the night before.
Arrested?
For what? Because the hotel security and the police thought that Winston had a giant dog in his room that had gotten loose. Winston describes seeing a wolf, or a giant dog, that completely wrecked the restaurant and then just vanished. And there are police reports. There's actual broken glass being swept up.
That moment of realization must be just devastating. Bob is sitting there with his coffee and his continental breakfast, listening to a third-party, verified account of his dream.
It completely destroys it was just a nightmare defense. The evidence is empirical. It's real. Bob realizes that he physically changed. He was the wolf. He isn't just losing his mind, he's losing his species.
So terrified, he flies back to New York, and this is where that theme of the experts really comes into play. The first thing he does is go see Monica Goldman.
Monica is his psychiatrist, but she's also Cindy's best friend, which complicates everything. She's wealthy, she's poised, and she represents the absolute citadel of reason. She is science with a capital S.
So Bob goes to her, the voice of reason, and tells her the most unreasonable thing possible. He tells her everything. He says, I turned into a wolf. There's a police report in Atlanta. I have physical pain from where I crashed through the glass.
And Monica, she just can't do it. She cannot process the information as it's being given. Her brain immediately filters it, translates it into a language she can understand.
So she gives it a diagnosis.
She diagnoses him with hypnagogic transformation, which is a real thing, but it's basically telling him he's having incredibly vivid waking dreams because of stress.
She's essentially gaslighting him.
In a way, yes, but it doesn't feel malicious.
Right.
It feels more like a defense mechanism for her own sanity.
Yeah.
If Monica accepts that Bob actually physically turned into a wolf, she has to throw away her medical degree. She has to throw away her entire understanding of physics and biology.
Her whole worldview collapses.
It completely collapses. So, to protect her own reality, she denies his. She tells him it's a psychotic break and prescribes Elevin, a very strong tranquilizer.
She's trying to treat a biological metamorphosis with a sedative.
She's trying to sedate the wild. She thinks if she could just calm him down, get his brain chemistry back to normal, the delusion will stop. But of course, you can't tranquilize a metamorphosis. The change is happening on a cellular level, and the pills do nothing.
And it just ramps up from there. Bob, feeling lost, wanders back to the one place that makes any sense to him, the Central Park Zoo in this scene. This is where the body horror really, really kicks in for me.
It's deeply disturbing. He goes back to the wolf cage, and he sticks his hand through the bars.
Which is an insane thing to do.
A completely insane thing to do. But the wolf inside, the very one that started all this, doesn't bait him. It does something much stranger. It licks and sucks on his hand. It's tasting him. It's an act of recognition. It's like it's saying, I know you. You are one of us now.
And just that touch, that connection, causes Bob's body to just collapse.
He has a massive seizure right there on the pavement in front of the enclosure. The police are called. And we get this incredible perspective from a police officer who's trying to help him, trying to restrain him. The cop is screaming in horror.
Why? What does he see?
It's what he feels. He tells his partner that he can feel Bob's bones twisting and straightening out under his skin.
That description is just...
It's so visceral. The officer is shouting that the man is crippled or horribly deformed. He's feeling Bob's anatomy literally rearrange itself in real time. But then, just as quickly, the seizure passes. Bob just stands up, and he walks away.
So the biology is still fluid. It's not one thing or the other yet. It's rejecting the human form, but it hasn't fully settled into the new one.
Not yet. But it settles at home. That's where the final shift happens.
He knows it's coming.
Yes. He feels it building. He runs into his apartment and hides in the coat closet.
Why the closet?
It's a den. It's dark, it's enclosed, it smells like his pack. The coats all carry the scent of his wife and son. It's the safest place for an animal to go to ground before a vulnerable change. And this is where Strieber executes this brilliant narrative shift. As a transformation completes, the prose itself changes. We stop seeing the world through human eyes.
The world goes grayscale.
Yes, he loses the blue of the sky. Color vision is a primate trait. Canids don't need it in the same way. But what he loses in sight, he gains 1,000-fold in smell. And the descriptions here are just overwhelming.
What does he smell?
Everything. He smells the hot electronics of the record player spinning in the living room. He smells the chlorine sourness of cocaine in the pockets of drug dealers 3 blocks away in the park.
And he smells his family. Cindy and Kevin are there, right?
They are. And this is the most heartbreaking part of the transformation. He smells the rancid butter of fear coming off of them in waves.
Oh, man.
Imagine that. You love these people more than anything in the world, but suddenly their fear of you is a physical stench that assaults your nose. It changes the dynamic instantly. He isn't their husband and father anymore. In that moment, he is a predator and they are prey, and he can smell their terror.
And physically, he's now fully a wolf. His arms have shortened, his hands have curled into paws, his teeth are a cold wall. He tries to speak to reassure them, but he can only make these guttural sounds. Boar. Wow.
And the family's reaction is just this perfect case study in how different people deal with trauma.
Yeah.
Kevin, the little Kafka scholar, he immediately labels it. He whispers, it's a Kafkaesque metamorphosis.
He had an intellectual box to put it in.
He does. He's terrified, but he has a framework. Cindy, on the other hand, goes through a moment of pure hysteria, but then her maternal protective instinct just overrides everything else. She immediately starts closing and locking the windows.
Why the windows?
So he doesn't jump. She's worried he'll run out into the street and get hit by a car or shot. Her first thought isn't, there's a monster in my house. It's, okay, my husband is a wolf. How do we keep him safe? She shifts into crisis management mode.
But Monica is still in the room with them?
Monica is the tragedy of the pure intellect. She is standing there, staring at a 100-pound timber wolf pacing in a Manhattan apartment, and she still refuses to use the word wolf.
She can't say.
She calls it a hysterical reaction. She looks at his paws and snout and says she sees a contorted man. She starts planning his treatment out loud on a forced Thorazine, electroshock therapy.
She wants to give electroshock therapy to a wolf.
She wants to shock the man back into existence.
Yeah.
It just shows how blinding our preconceptions can be.
Yeah.
She is literally unable to see the physical reality in front of her because it violates the fundamental laws of her world.
So the situation is stable, but just barely. They have a wolf in the closet, but then the doorbell rings.
Oh, yeah, of course. The O'Neills, the neighbors.
Now, in any sensible situation, you do not open that door. You turn off the lights, you pretend you're not home. But this is the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Social pressure is apparently stronger than survival instinct.
It's the absolute clash of civilization. The O'Neills are just dropping off a covered dish. It's leftover ham and beans from a wake they just attended.
Leftovers from a wake, death and beans, it's perfect.
It's so grimly funny.
Yeah.
And Cindy and Monica feel they have to open the door to accept this dish. They can't be rude. So they let the neighbors into the apartment, and there's Bob pacing the living room.
And they have to lie. They have to come up with something on the spot.
They say, oh, that's our big dog. Don't mind him.
And this leads to the scene that I think defines the entire book. You have a wild apex predator possessing the mind of a frustrated poet, being forced to pretend to be a good dog for a boorish, intrusive neighbor.
It's the ultimate humiliation. And Mr. O'Neill's a real jerk. He immediately starts mocking the dog. He asks if it's paraplegic because Bob, who is still human inside, doesn't know how to operate the tail properly.
Oh, wow.
He's trying to wag it to be friendly, to play the part, but he can't get the rhythm right. He's failing at being a dog.
And O'Neill just keeps pushing it.
He does. He gets condescending, and then he insults Cindy. And that is the line. The human restraint snaps, or maybe the wolf's protective loyalty kicks in. Bob attacks. He lunges and he bites Mr. O'Neill's foot.
And he doesn't just nip him.
No, he severs a nerve. This is real serious damage. And the scene just explodes. Cindy, in this moment of pure, glorious rage, grabs a pot of baked beans and throws it at the O'Neills as they're fleeing the apartment.
The beans flying through the air. It's almost slapstick, but the consequences are deadly serious.
It's the end of any fantasy that they could contain this. You cannot bite a neighbor in New York City and get away with it.
Yeah.
The police and the ASPCA are called. And when they arrive, they don't see a misunderstood poet. They see a dangerous wild animal loose in an apartment building.
Cindy tries to keep the lie going, right? She screams that he's just a husky.
But animal control knows the difference. They see the yellow eyes, they see the bone structure. They know a wolf when they see one. And poor Kevin. Kevin tries to intervene using the only tool he has, the only one he understands.
The Constitution.
He starts screaming about the Bill of Rights. You can't net my dad. He has rights. Due process. It's just heartbreaking because it highlights the total incompatibility of the two worlds. The Constitution does not apply to wolves. Bob is stripped of his humanity the moment that net touches him.
He gets tranquilized.
A burning pain in the chest, he says. He's netted, he's dragged down the hall, thrown into an elevator, and just tossed into the back of a truck. He has gone from being a resident of the Empire State Building to a piece of cargo.
And this begins what is, for me, the darkest segment of the entire deep dive. Incarceration. Bob wakes up in the back of the truck.
He's muzzled. He's groggy from the tranquilizer. And he overhears the workers in the front seat. They aren't worried about his health or his welfare. They're betting on him.
Betting on him.
Yeah. They're wondering if this wolf could kill a pit bull in a fight. They view him as nothing more than violent meat, a commodity for sport.
He arrives at the pound, and Strieber does not pull any punches here. This is not a shelter with volunteers walking dogs. This is a death camp.
It is hell on earth. The first thing Bob registers is the smell. It smells of decay, of fear, and of sick breath. He sees the gas chamber almost immediately, and he understands the grim efficiency of the place. Dogs are gassed daily. Their bodies are stuffed into black garbage bags and stacked like trash. He realizes he's on death row.
But amidst all this horror, something really profound happens. Bob, with his new wolf senses, starts to tune into the other dogs.
This is what he calls the Society of Dogs. And he realizes that the barking, which to human ears just sounds like annoying noise, is actually a song. It's communal prayer. He calls it dog affirming.
Wait, can you explain that? They're singing.
In a way, they know they're going to die. They can smell the gas, they can see the bags, yet they maintain this song. They are asserting their existence against the void. Bob, the failed poet, realizes that these dogs possess a kind of spiritual depth that most humans completely lack.
They love their own gods, us the humans, unconditionally.
Unconditionally, even in this place. He watches a golden retriever named Rindy trying to woo a potential new owner through the bars of her cage, just offering pure, unadulterated love, moments before she might be taken to the chamber.
And in this equation, the humans are.
The humans are the monsters. They're the ones gassing these creatures of infinite love. Bob has this terrible epiphany about the tragedy of the dog, a creature whose entire purpose is love, constantly betrayed by the object of its affection.
And amidst all this existential dread, he's also starving.
Wow.
Let's talk about the food.
Ugh, yes, the food. Bob is famished, but all they give him is this gray, foul-smelling sludge in a metal bowl. And he analyzes it with his wolf nose.
What's in?
He smells ash, he smells cheap cereal filler, and he smells meat. But it's not beef or chicken.
What kind of meat is it?
He smells python, he smells gorilla.
Oh my God, that's horrific.
The implication is just sickeningly clear. The dead animals from the zoo, the ones that die of old age or sickness, are being rendered down and processed into dog food for the pound.
It's a closed system of degradation.
It's the ultimate humiliation. Bob, the connoisseur who craves coffee and croissants, is forced to eat ground-up gorilla to survive. He can only howl his frustration, but while he's howling in his cage, back in the human world, the women are finally waking up to the reality of the situation.
Cindy is left alone. The apartment is empty and silent. She talks to a lawyer, Stanford, who basically tells her there is no hope. You can't bail out a wolf.
And the press is having a field day. They're calling him the Wolf of Fifth Avenue. It's become a media spectacle.
But Monica, the wall of scientific denial finally cracks.
It takes Kevin, the son, to finally break through to her. Kevin posits this theory based on quantum physics, the many worlds interpretation.
The nerdy kid saves the day.
Basically. He argues that in an infinite universe, every possibility must exist somewhere. Usually the laws of physics keep those worlds separate. But he argues that Bob's desire to escape was so strong and his stress so high that he somehow slipped through the cracks between realities. He argues that dreams can, under the right pressure, become flesh.
And Monica, the scientist, accepts this.
She has to. The alternative is that she's gone completely mad. She looks at the evidence, the police reports, the bitten neighbor, the empty apartment, and she finally admits it to Cindy. She says the line that changes everything. We know that Bob is inside that creature.
That's the turning point. Once the expert admits the impossible truth, then real action is possible.
But legal action is totally off the table. A judge isn't going to sign a release order for a werewolf. So the two upper-class women, the psychiatrist and the poet's wife, realize they have to become criminals.
They decide to plan a heist.
A breakout. But they don't have guns, they don't have masks. What do they have? They have their social standing. Monica comes up with this desperate, almost absurd plan. She suggests using seduction.
Seduction?
Not literally, but using their charm, their money, their confidence, their Upper East Side poise to talk their way past the guards and bureaucracy at the pound. It's the only weapon they have left.
So we've reached the climax. The breakout is set. And we're going to leave the specific ending for you to discover in the book because the journey is what really matters here. I want to zoom out and look at the so what of this whole deep dive.
We started with the idea of escape, right? The midlife crisis. Bob Duke wanted to escape the trap of his civilized life. He craved the wild.
And he got it in spades.
He got it in the most literal sense possible. But the tragedy, and I think this is the brilliant insight of Strieber's book, is that he discovers there is no wild left to escape to.
What do you mean by that?
Bob thought becoming a wolf would make him free. Instead, he found out that in the modern world, the wild is just another thing to be managed and regulated. It's tagged, it's caged, it's put in a zoo for entertainment, or it's gassed in a pound for being inconvenient. There is no running away. The system encompasses everything.
That is an incredibly bleak realization. He traded the prison of the office for the prison of the cage.
He did. But in that cage, he also found something else. He found the song. He found that profound connection with the other dogs. He lost his humanity, but he might have found his soul.
It brings up this massive question about identity, doesn't it? We spend our whole lives building these constructs. Robert Hack, the consultant, the father, the taxpayer. But if you strip all of that away...
If you take away the voice, the hands, the face that people recognize, if you are left naked, in a cage, with nothing but your core instincts, who are you then?
Are you the beast, or are the people holding the keys and the gas canisters the real beasts?
That's the question Strieber leaves us with, I think. Bob, the wolf, is arguably capable of more love and more profound thought than the humans who are betting on his death.
So here's our final thought for you to chew on today. The next time you're sitting in traffic or you're staring at a spreadsheet and you have that little fantasy of just running away into the woods, ask yourself this. What parts of you would actually survive the trip?
Would you sing? Or would you just howl?
A terrifying thought to end on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure.